Hi, Joan. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give it a few minutes, and then we'll get started. Hi, Michelle. Ethan? My husband is my special tech person today, so he's telling me how to adjust the camera. So while we're waiting, let's go ahead and kind of check over, make sure you've got everything you need. You've got your rice, you've got your eggs, you've got your soy sauce, your veggies. And I just flipped the camera by accident. Oh, okay, technical difficulties. Hi! So while we're waiting for more people to join, can you guys tell me in the comments how many of you will be following along today? So if you're following along, can you give me like a wave or a thumbs up? All right, nice. Okay. Well, Tandy Travels, I'm so excited that I get to show you how to make fried rice today. So the good news is that after we do this live session, it will be downloaded and then we'll post it so you can go back and review. Hey Mo. Hi Aditi. Okay, well it's 2 o'clock over here in Central Time, so let's go ahead and kind of get started. First, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Pamela Chu Kadakia, and I am Chinese American. My parents are originally from Hong Kong, so we speak Cantonese, and I was born and raised here in the United States. So that is all very important as to me demonstrating fried rice to you today, because you are learning from an ABC, as they call it, an American-born Chinese. So I don't know how authentic this will be, but you know what? What's authentic nowadays anyways, right? So I can't see when you do that, so okay. So how authentic, like I was saying, how authentic are these things anyways? So today I'm going to show you how my mom has made fried rice and how I learned it growing up. And you'll see that very similar to Latino culture, there are no measurements. It's more just like a little bit of that, a smidge of this. So I'll try my best to guide you through measurements as much as possible. Before we get started, I just really wanted to thank Alas and Michelle Navarro, Professor Michelle Navarro, for this collaboration for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Alas is the Achieving Latino Academic Success student club on campus at Richland College, and we're just so happy to be collaborating with them. We're so blessed to have this allyship and being able to offer you all of these fun activities and check-ins. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, let's make sure you have all of your ingredients. The really neat thing about fried rice, or tao fan as we call it in Cantonese, the word tao means to literally toss or stir, so it's not really fried in that sense. Being an English as a second language teacher, I tend to focus on the linguistics aspects of things. But anyways, the great thing about fried rice is that you can actually add whatever you want to it. So today I'm going to really talk about the steps, and then when you recreate it, you can add your favorite things. Like, I know some of my folks out there love to put Spam in their fried rice. My husband does not like Spam, so I will not be putting Spam into the fried rice today, but for those of you who like it, you can add it in next time. Also, if you like your spice, another thing you can do is add a little chili oil or hot sauce into your fried rice to make it spicy. So there's so many different renditions of fried rice that you can do. And the really neat thing is, just like in Latino culture, when you walk into a household and you have had like a taco or any kind of Mexican or Latino or Central American or South American cuisine, it is going to differ household to household. So you walk into my house, fried rice is going to be made one way, and you walk into another house and fried rice is going to be made another way. So that's just kind of the way it goes. Yep, Tiff, you don't like Spam either. I think it's definitely an acquired taste. I love Spam, but Ankit says it's mystery meat, so he's not about that life. Okay, so most importantly, for your protein, if you don't like Spam, you can definitely use tofu. Like I said, I'm going to show you step by step. So when we get to the protein portion of the frying, you can substitute it for chicken, for beef, for tofu if you're vegetarian, or even if you're not vegetarian. I know a lot of non-vegetarians that love tofu. So yeah, so you can definitely use tofu. If you're going to use tofu, make sure to use a firmer tofu, or even in the Asian market, sometimes they have like little pieces of fried tofu. So I think that would be better to use because you're kind of aggressively stirring the rice. So if you use a soft tofu, it's going to end up crumbling into your rice and not really working too well. All right. So, is a wok necessary? No, it is not necessary. So, I mean, I prefer it. I grew up cooking with it. But let's say you have a much, all right, let's say you have a pan like this, a much flatter pan. I would not recommend a flat pan because the thing about frying rice, right, it's tao fan. So you're literally the process of taoing, that's the verb of tossing. You're going to be tossing the rice. So if you use something like this, your rice is going to go everywhere and not into your mouth. So if you don't have a wok, if you have some kind of pan or pot that has like a higher edge, that's going to work a lot better. Okay, great. And just FYI, we are running on a little bit of a delay, so if I don't get to your questions, my handy dandy assistant in the background will be writing them down and I will eventually get around to them. So, okay, let's start with the eggs. So, key ingredients: rice, eggs. You've got your green onions. Now, I didn't have time to go to the store and grab a lot of green onions, so I'm actually subbing a little bit of green onions with some shallots. You can also put in onions if you want, anything essentially in that family that has that kind of fragrance and flavor. I've got a couple pieces of ginger here. These are not necessary. I didn't want to send you guys on a scavenger hunt for ginger because I know not all stores have this. So I'm going to talk about why ginger is important in Chinese cooking, but you definitely don't need it to make delicious fried rice. So we've got our onions and shallots in my case, and then out over here I've also got my veggies. So I'm actually just using frozen vegetables from Costco because I'm a teacher and we all know how busy we are with the whole online teaching and stuff, and ain't nobody have time to slowly cut up little pieces of veggies. So I'm using frozen veggies. If you have fresh broccoli or carrots and stuff cut up, that's great. One key thing that I remember being schooled on when I was younger is you want to make sure that your veggies are chopped up into small bite sizes. I actually had an aunt criticize me one time and tell me I had chopped my carrots into like big 1-inch size pieces, and she's like, "Oh no, this is not going to do. You need to chop them smaller." So definitely keep that in mind. Hopefully you have soy sauce. I am using a low sodium soy sauce, but any soy sauce will do. When you look up fried rice recipes, you might see fermented dark soy sauce mentioned. Now, there are many different types of soy sauce out in the world, and fermented dark soy sauce is one of them. This is super salty, and it gives fried rice that kind of dark color. You want to be really careful and sparing with it. So I poured out a cup of soy sauce into a bowl, and I've actually just put a splash, literally just a splash of the dark fermented soy sauce in. But you can definitely adjust based on your taste, based on your saltiness sodium level. All right. So first step, we got to whip the eggs. Growing up, I've got my 4 eggs in here, and I'm going to start whipping them. And yes, I am whipping my eggs with chopstick. My mom, growing up, would only give me chopsticks to whip eggs. It was really annoying when I realized that it was so much easier to whip with a fork. But to kind of give tribute to my mom, the cooking queen, and if you've had the pleasure of eating my mom's cooking, you know she is an amazing cook. I would be lucky to be even a fraction of the cook that she ends up being. Yeah, coconut aminos are totally okay. So it's funny that you should mention that, because when my husband and I did Whole30, we did use coconut aminos. So totally fine, same flavor. All right, so you're gonna whip your eggs. Make sure you whip them until they're nice and frothy. And kind of wishing I did this ahead of time now, but now you don't have to whip them with chopsticks. It won't impact the authenticity if you decide to use a fork. Okay. All right. So I've got my eggs all nice and whipped up there. And the key to cooking a lot of Chinese food is step by step. When I first started making fried rice, I couldn't figure out why my fried rice was never as good as my mom's. Mine would always come out soggy, which a lot of my friends have been like, "Pam, my fried rice is always soggy. What do I do about it?" Everything kind of always mushed together, and 2 things I learned. 1, you have to make fried rice with leftover rice. That's so important. Leftover cold rice. And 2, you have to do it step by step. So it's actually really easy to make, but just a lengthy process. So I've got my fire on. I'm heating up my wok. And the first thing I'm going to cook is actually my eggs. So I've got them all whipped up. Now, there is some debate out in the world about how you add eggs to fried rice. If you have a roaring fire and you're like a top-notch chef, you can definitely throw your rice in and then throw the eggs in and whip the eggs into the rice. We don't have that capacity here in my home kitchen, so we're going to cook the eggs separate. So I'm going to add a little bit of oil to the pan, just a smidge to make sure that the eggs don't stick to the pan, and let that heat up for a minute. And while it's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and see if you guys have any questions, or... Oh, we're good on the questions? Okay. My behind-the-scenes producer says we're good on the questions. So what do you guys think? Maybe Inkit and I can quit our day jobs and just make this a full-time gig? Okay, so I'm heating up the rice, and I'm heating up the rice. I'm heating up the oil, whipping my eggs. And my mom always did this, so this is just how I do it. Some people just plop their eggs right in. My mom always kind of whipped and plopped, so we're going to whip and plop. And you're going to get that nice sizzling sound because your pan was nice and hot. So, okay. Keep your bowl. Don't throw it in the sink because once the eggs are kind of close to being done, we're actually going to remove them from the wok. So I've got them going now. And if you've ever made an omelet or scrambled eggs, kind of the same idea. As the bottom starts to cook, I'm pulling the eggs inwards, so making a scrambled eggs kind of deal. And I will lift and show you. Oh, what inspired me to host a cooking session? Well, I think a lot of my friends have hopped on and they can tell you that I love cooking. I also, in reaction to this whole pandemic and quarantine, if we're doing real talk, my immediate mode that I go into to kind of self-preserve is cook. I love cooking. I love cooking for people. I love feeding people. It's how I show love. So that's definitely why one of the things when Michelle and I were talking about collaborating, I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely do cooking. And of course I'm copying Michelle's boyfriend because he was, I want to give a shout out, he was the first to do cooking on LS's Instagram. Oh, the heat is at about a medium to a medium low for the eggs. So we don't want them to burn. We want them to get a very nice kind of golden color. And you can see my eggs are already pretty much done. So you don't want to cook them until they're completely dry. They can still be a little bit runny, and then plop them back into the bowl. And I probably should have picked a better bowl for this. But let me see if I can give you a good look. So this is what my eggs look like. Not completely dried out yet, still a little bit wet. Okay. And then we're going to use the wok again. So, I mean, everyone does this a little bit differently. If you want, you can kind of like wipe down your wok. For me, everything's going together anyway. So what I do is I just scrape out the bits of burnt part and it'll be fine. Okay. I don't think that different size woks matter. I've seen really big ones. This one, I got it from Macy's before I moved to Texas and it works fine for me. So just depends on how much food you're making. Okay, so we've got the eggs. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cook up the, okay, at this point we're going to cook the meat. So I'm not doing meat today. Let me turn off the fire while I talk at you guys for a minute. I'm not cooking meat today. I'm just making veg style with eggs. But at this point, if you have some kind of protein you want to put in, that's when you want to cook it in the wok. So you'll turn on the fire, put a little oil, sear your tofu or sear your spam or meat until it's pretty nice and cooked, and then remove it. So this is the portion where you'd add in your protein. Since we are not putting in a protein, the next step that we're going to do is actually the veggies and the onion. And this is where I want to talk to you guys about the ginger. So ginger, we've all heard the yin-yang balance of Chinese, Eastern medicine. So ginger acts as when you're cooking in the wok is considered hot and it has heat. And ginger helps to balance that heat. So that's the idea behind ginger. So what you would want to do is add a little bit of oil to your wok. Let that heat up for a minute. And while that's heating up, make sure your ginger is dry because the last thing you want is hot oil and a little bit of water on your ginger. It's going to come splattering up at you. And as we're talking about ginger, some people don't peel their ginger, they just wash it. I like to peel my ginger. One of the ways that I do it is with a knife. So please don't feel the need to peel your ginger with a peeler. What I do is with a knife, I hold it and I scrape towards myself like this, and it scrapes off the skin of the ginger. So that's definitely something that you can do. Alright, so as the wok is getting nice and hot and the oil is heating up, you throw in your ginger and kind of move it around the wok. Wash your wok with the ginger. That helps with the balancing of the heat. Okay, and I've got my flame right now at about a medium. So, kind of heating it up right now. So I've got my ginger going, and now it's the time you want to add in a little bit of shallots and green onions. So we're going to do this in actually 2 steps. I want the flavors of the green onions and the shallots to get into the vegetables, but at the same time I need it to fry my rice with. So I'm actually just going to take a pinch. As my mom would say, you're just going to law siu siu. Okay, you're going to take a little bit. There's no measurements. What is this, like a tablespoon? And then just throw it in. I'm really just trying to get that flavor in there. And then as that's all heating up, I'm going to throw in my veggies. So like I was saying at the beginning of this, Chinese cuisine is so diverse, and you know, different households are going to make their fried rice differently. For me personally, I don't like my stuff too salty. Cantonese food, Hong Kong style food is actually known for being a little bit on the bland side. If you go eat at a Sichuan restaurant, you're going to get all those spices and herbs. Our stuff is a little bit more bland. But at this point, if you want, you can add a little bit of soy sauce into your veggies to give it a little saltiness. And when I say a little, I just mean like a teaspoon. Okay. That's because when you throw it into the rice and you add the soy sauce in, we put the rice and the soy sauce separate, so that's really, the veggies won't get a chance to absorb the flavor. So at this point, you can add some flavor into your veggies. You might want to turn up the heat. Keep that sizzling going. Wouldn't it be nice if we had smell-o-vision? Well, it smells like soy sauce. I can describe it to you with onions. Okay, so I've got my veggies pretty much, well, cooked, heated up. Some people like their veggies still crispy and not too cooked through all the way, like especially if you are cooking broccoli. Others, you guys might prefer to have your veggies cooked all the way and have it a little bit mushy. So at this point, it's up to cooker chef discretion. I think mine are looking like, well, they were frozen before, so the idea is I want to make sure that they're not frozen anymore by the time I take it out of the wok. Give it a few more minutes. Yep, I hope you guys can see it here. I think that's about right. So normally I don't bother turning off the fire, but since we're talking in between the frying sessions, I'll turn off the fire and go ahead and remove your veggies from the wok or pan or pot or whatever you're using today. If you're one of those people who have the luck of always biting into ginger, then you can remove the ginger at this point, but I leave mine in. And yes, if you are cooking protein, also make sure to remove the protein. Every time you cook something, step by step, you cook it, you remove it. You cook it, you remove it. It's not until we put the rice in that we start to throw everything back in. And this is really the key to cooking fried rice, because if, why not dice the ginger? Oh, okay. Sorry, this is the key to cooking fried rice, because if you don't remove it and you start throwing your rice in and throwing everything in, you're gonna have all the juices sitting from your protein and from your veggies, all that leftover liquid, and that's what makes the rice soggy. So this is why we want to make sure that we remove things, cook things step by step. We cooked our eggs, removed it. We cooked our protein, remove it. You cook your veggies, and then you remove it. Okay, so now I have an empty wok. If you would like, if your wok has any kind of liquid or water in it, go ahead and just take a paper towel and wipe it. If it's dry like mine, then you're good. You can leave it as it is. Okay. And why not dice the ginger? Some people do. Some forms of fried rice, people shave the ginger really thin into really small pieces and fry it in, because there are people who love to eat ginger. It's very healthy for you. I'm sure you've all heard of ginger and turmeric tea, which is now all the rage. I personally don't like to eat ginger. I remove mine. But you are more than welcome to slice it real thin and throw it in and fry it also. Okay, so now we're getting to the exciting part. We are going to officially start frying our rice. So I'm going to turn up the heat. I've got it at about a medium high right now. Yeah, a little bit past medium, because we really want to get the wok hot. A lot of Chinese cooking depends on the wok being hot. So one of the reasons it's hard for us to reproduce the flavors of a restaurant is because they have roaring fires and we don't. Okay, so you're gonna add in your oil. Now, you wanna make sure that you have, it looks like I'm drenching in a ton of oil. You wanna make sure that you have enough oil so that when you throw in the rice, you can really have enough to coat the rice and to fry the rice in. You don't want to put too much though, because then it just becomes super oily. So I would say I probably have about 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil in here. Again, Chinese cooking, no measurements, just a little bit of that, a little bit of this. My mom would say, buy siu-siu. Siu-siu is like a little bit. I don't know, Mom, how much is siu-siu? We don't know. So by Western measurements, I would say about 2-3 tablespoons, okay? All right, so I'm heating it up, and now I'm gonna throw in the green onions and the shallots that I have. Again, if you're only using green onions, great. If you wanna throw in diced up regular onion, that's fine too. So you're gonna throw it in, hear the crackling. Pray to God that you dried out all of that, because otherwise the water is gonna go crazy. Ooh. I'm going to give my green onions and my shallots a nice bath in the oil. Make sure they fry through. And then make sure that your wok is still pretty hot. At this point, I'm going to turn my fire up to a high, because I'm about to throw in my rice, and I really want to make sure that I'm frying it. And it's actually a misnomer. Fried rice is not actually fried. Tao fan, the word tao, like I was saying earlier, actually means toss. Chinese is so funny. There's so many words for so many different things. So I'm going to throw in my rice now. Okay, and here's the thing. Tao, toss, right? So you are going to immediately start tossing. You got to get that bad boy moving. Start moving your rice. Kind of poke it a little, prod it a little. This is why it's important to use leftover cold rice, because can you imagine if you had a fresh pot of cooked rice right now? It would get so sticky and everything would just clump together. So you definitely want to use leftover cold rice and just kind of start tossing it. And patience is key too. You really want to give it a good toss, keep going, get your muscles going. And you'll start to see that your cold rice, the bits of grain, actually start to come apart as they heat up in the oil. So this is the Tao part of the Tao fan, because you are tossing the rice. I guess a better name for fried rice would actually be tossed rice. Just trying. Now, again, cooker, chef discretion. Some people like their rice a little more burnt, so you can kind of wait. You don't have to, once it starts to loosen up and you can see it getting warm, you can stop for a little bit and kind of let the bottom of the rice start to burn and sear. And then keep tossing. And you can see my rice has really gone from one clump to really it's starting to break apart. And that's really important. And I can really smell it now. You know, growing up, my mom would make fried rice for us all the time. And we'd eat it a lot. And now that I'm an adult, I realize it's actually a really great way to save money. If you have some leftover rotisserie chicken, a couple of eggs, and some veggies in the fridge, just throw it in some rice and you've got yourself a whole new meal. It's like my friend Tiffany, who's in here today, who's a nutritionist, will tell you that it's a leftover makeover. You take all your leftovers and you make it over into a completely new and delicious meal. Alright, so I'm finally at that point where I can tell my rice is ready when it's starting to actually come apart. It's no longer in clumps. It's really tossed through, warmed up, and looking pretty brown. Okay, now this is the part where I add in the soy sauce. I did put 1 cup of soy sauce and a little bit of a dash, of the fermented soy sauce in here. I'm not going to pour the whole thing in at once. This is really to taste. So make sure again that your fire is still going, it's still roaring. And you throw in, I'm putting in about half right now, okay? As soon as that soy sauce hits, you gotta start tossing again. Again, the Tao and Tao Fan, right? We're really just giving our arm a workout. When I first started teaching and my class would have potlucks with my students, one of the things I loved to bring, just because it was so easy to make, is fried rice. And I remember my students would tell me, "Oh, teacher, you're ready to get married now because you can cook." But really the only thing I knew how to make was fried rice at that time. I've grown my recipes list since then, but okay. So here's how I tell if I've had enough soy sauce. One, that the rice is pretty coated. You can see that all my rice is brown now from the color of the soy sauce. The other thing too is you can lower your fire a smidge, okay? And again, just make sure that you're tossing it because you want to get that soy sauce all over the rice. You don't want it to get stuck in just one portion. And you also want that excess liquid to burn off so that your rice isn't mushy. So you see my rice is not mushy and it's well coated with soy sauce. And at this point, it's kind of up to you if you want to give it a little bit of a taste test. So I'm going to turn my fire all the way down to low so that it doesn't burn. I'm going to ask my official taste tester. Official taste tester, would you approach the stage, please? He's a little camera shy, okay. And he's going to tell me if it needs a little bit more soy sauce. So at this point, you can give it a taste. Okay, he's saying a little bit more soy sauce. He likes his stuff salty. If yours is fine, then you're good. So I'm going to turn that fire back up because, again, I don't want to drench it in soy sauce and have my rice go soggy. And then I'm just going to add a smidge more. So maybe 1 tablespoon more of soy sauce into my rice. This would also be the point if you are a spice lover and you love your sriracha or your chili oil or whatever other spicy stuff you love. Like, you can throw some of those in here and make your fried rice spicy. I did that for my husband one time and it was way too spicy and he couldn't handle it. So we're gonna avoid that today. All right, so I'm all nice and all the rice is tossed up. And now I am going to throw in my pre-cooked veggies. And if you've got it, I like to do this a step at a time. So I do veggies and then protein and then eggs. But you can do it whichever which way. So at this point I'm mixing in my veggies. If there is extra liquid in your veggies, don't throw that in because that'll just make your rice soggy. So just the dry cooked veggies, and make sure you toss it. It's nice and tossed. I've got the ginger in there. I'll probably pick that out at some point because knowing me, I'll bite right into it. Okay. If you have your protein, your tofu, all that stuff, you can toss that in now. Otherwise, you can throw in your egg. It's one whole piece, so I'm going to chop it up with my spatula and mix that in. How do the rice grains stay separated? Well, I'm not a chef, but my guess is because you cooked it the night before, it's cold. So when you throw it in, it gives it that chance for you to coat it with oil so it doesn't all stick together. If you use fresh rice or room temperature rice or even warm rice, it is going to stick together because of that gluten in the rice, right? It's going to already be bonded. So when you make it nice and cold and then you dunk it in a ton of oil and then you immediately start tossing, it gives it that chance to separate and that oil to get in there. Again, I just want a disclaimer, I am not a chef by training or any means, so I'm sure if you ask an actual chef, they'll give you a much more scientific and better reason, but I mean, that's what I think. All right, so as you can see, I've got my eggs tossed in, my veggies tossed in, everything's looking good. At this point, everything's dry, the rice is kind of separated, looking pretty good. So I'm going to turn off my fire and remove the rice from the wok. So I have to say that this is amazing that I am on this Instagram Live with you all showing you how to make fried rice, because I remember as a child, remember how I was saying that my mom would make fried rice all the time, and I was so blessed to have a mother who would cook for us, who was blessed enough to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of me and my brother. And she would make fried rice, and she would pack it in a bento box, what we'd call a bento box, right? Bento is Japanese, but you get, I think everyone knows what a bento box is, or for the most part. So my mother would pack the rice in a bento box, and I would have to take it to school. And I'm in elementary school, and I lived in a neighborhood where I was like one of 3 Asians, and the other 2 were Filipino. So I would be so embarrassed to eat my rice at school because it was a weird or smelled weird food. And it's just amazing how far we've come, that we're finally at a point where we're starting to accept different cuisines, we're enjoying them, we're able to share them. Yeah, just makes me really happy. All right, so here you have it, fried rice. Hope you can smell it. Let me just, yeah, that's pretty much it. For those of you who followed along, I hope yours came out well, and if it didn't, hit me up. You can message me on my Instagram at Teacher Pam Pam, and I'd be happy to give you tips. If you live nearby, I mean, we're still socially distancing, so let me know, and I can throw some into a box, and you can drive by and grab some. That is if my husband will let you take away his fried rice. So that's all, folks. Let me know if any of you have any other questions. Oh, Eddie, it takes practice. It takes practice. Try it again. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to hop off now because we're all done with the fried rice. But again, I just want to say thank you for joining me today. Keep practicing. Send me photos of your fried rice. Tag me, okay, so we can share the fruits of our labor. Have a great day. And if you missed it, I'm going to share this live so you can go back and rewatch it. All right, thank you. Have a great day, y'all.